We want to ease Lauren into this because she's fit to be tied, as they say. I'm being dramatic. You're okay. But there was a big critique of something called gentle parenting in the Gospel Coalition that caused an eruption on Christian social media. And before we get to it, I have to say that the more I do some reflecting on life and on family history, the more I see how dramatically parenting ideas change over time.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You see it, Ron?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I look at my poor father. His dad never went to one of his baseball games, never hugged him, never told him he loved him, but I'm sure he thought he was doing a pretty good job.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. Always provided, a good, safe house and meals 3 times a day and occasional vacations, whatever.
Well, and that was like that 50s archetype, right? Where it's like, mom is very nurturing and baking and kitchening. And dad comes home and changes from a sport coat to a sweater over his dress shirt and tie, reads the paper and kids, get out of here. I'm reading, What a great family. And then you have Sarah, my experience. We watched that Duggar documentary, the Shiny Happy People it's called maybe, or is that it? Shiny something?
I think so.
That's right. Shiny Happy People.
And it digs into the Bill Gothard, dare I say, cult.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we swallow hard and go, oh no, we adopted some of those parenting principles he taught.
Mm-hmm.
And in hindsight, we're ashamed and scared. It was hard.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot I would do over again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people in your generation, Lauren, who are having their babies are watching what we did and they're like, wow, you guys are messed up. I mean, because in some respects we were.
Yeah, I think that's what I think parenting is. It's always like trying to do better than the last generation did.
Yeah, so Pastor Bernard Howard, he's pastor of Grace Church in Birmingham, Alabama, wrote an article just simply asking, is gentle parenting biblical? And oh, did he go for it? It's a tough one to summarize, so I'm just going to give you some of his basic thoughts. And then we're going to have, but as we get into this as well, like Lauren, is it safe to say that in some form or fashion, you and Eddie subscribe to gentle parenting?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the last time I checked, you're following Jesus.
Yes.
Still?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, so here's what this guy writes. If you've paid attention to parents with young children in recent years, you may have observed something previous generations would have found deeply puzzling. A mom and dad crouching in front of a tantrum-throwing child and, while seeking eye contact and maintaining a friendly tone of voice, saying something like this: "You're feeling sad. You're feeling big feelings. It's okay to feel those things. I'm right here." Several minutes later, when you turn back down the same shopping aisle, the child is still furiously demanding cookies, and the crouching parent is still saying the same thing. You're witnessing gentle parenting, he says, alternatively known as respectful or responsive parenting. It's a school of thought made popular by Instagram, podcasts, blogs, TikToks. He even hints there may be some academics who subscribe to it, which was moderately insulting. There actually are academics that subscribe to it. He said, gentle parenting is hard to define in one crisp sentence. Jump into the world of gentle parenting and you'll find a constellation of related practical suggestions rather than a grand unified theory. Some of the tips are brilliantly insightful. Like, for example, instead of issuing an instruction that may lead to confusion, like, time to leave the playground, present your toddler with a choice. Would you like to leave the playground in 2 minutes or 5 minutes? Or how about this one? Instead of worsening a nasty atmosphere between two fighting toddlers, diffuse the tension with playfulness. This room doesn't have enough robots. Who wants to be a robot with me? Or instead of removing a child's pacifier unexpectedly with a grim tear off the Band-Aid attitude, you hold the pacifier fairy's coming.
Mm-hmm.
You have it fly away, or a presents exchanged. I've seen that one done before. He goes, I love those suggestions, and I love the general principle of being aware of a child's feelings and seeking creative ways to avoid treading on them unnecessarily. If gentle parenting were just a mood board for solving parental difficulties in non-confrontational ways, I'd have nothing to say against it. But when you dig more deeply into the underlying concepts of gentle parenting, you'll find at least 2 principles that stand opposed to the Bible's teaching about parenting. So he thinks there's 2 aspects of gentle parenting that are contrary to Scripture, and therefore he's saying you shouldn't do it. Right?
I believe so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the first one, he said, is that at its core, subscribers to gentle parenting are encouraging parents to draw on the goodness within their child. Like he's saying a foundational principle of gentle parenting is that if you can just speak gently to your child well enough, you can draw on their inner goodness and bring that out. And he's saying that's unbiblical. Well, okay, yeah, hello. I mean, that's not a hard one for me to refute.
Mm.
We're all sinful.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible.
Yeah.
All of it. Okay. And we'll have Lauren respond to that in a minute. The second one, he said, is that rewards and punishments only modify surface behavior without addressing inner feelings. He says, and generally speaking, gentle parenting scorns rewards and punishments as the discredited tools of traditional parenting. Christians should share gentle parenting's goal of influencing inner feelings, he says, which might call shepherding a child's heart. However, from a biblical perspective, he says, and it's hard to overstate the importance of this. Be overstated to you, Lauren. Rewards and punishments are vital in shepherding our children. And he goes on to make an argument at which we have the responsibility as parents to punish our children. Rewards and punishments are a key aspect to biblical parenting. Like you shouldn't worry about their feelings, but at the end of the day, they need to experience punishments because that's part of the Christian life.
And whether that punishment is a physical, you go grab a switch off the tree and I'm going to spank you with it, or you stand in the corner and I'll tell you when you can get out.
Well,
so, there's a range of punishments, right?
Now, he quotes that particular passage, spare the rod, spoil the child, okay?
Mm-hmm.
No. Spoil the child is not in the Bible.
Sorry?
That's not the passage.
Sorry? What was it again, Lauren?
It's just like, it's something like spare the child and
I can find it.
Yeah, it's something else. But
It's not that. But
it's not spoil the child.
There's
no.
a child and there's a rod.
Yeah.
Okay. And so he goes on to say the Bible arguably stops short of mandating physical punishment because the rod, he said, can be viewed as a symbol. But if the rod is a symbol, it's surely a symbol of painful punishment, the kind of punishment that a child will register as punishment. Loving parents are biblically required to make use of the rod, and physical punishment is one way to fulfill that requirement. The way he writes it and the way I interpret his writing, whether it's fair or not, is he's saying it doesn't have to mean physical punishment, but it probably should. Is that how you read that, Lauren?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go back to the big one. He says gentle parenting draws on a child's inherent goodness. What do you do with that?
Well, so first of all, he doesn't really understand gentle parenting.
Okay.
That's just like,
He gets it
just
wrong?
from the outset. Yeah, he totally gets it wrong. He thinks it's only about catering to your children's emotions, and that's not quite it. And the good inside that he's talking about is one person's phrase, one influencer's phrase, how she tells people to talk to their children. That's not the philosophy of gentle parenting. That's one person's phrase that she uses. That's not like the core philosophy of gentle parenting.
So he took one person's interpretation of it and said, this is everything. And that's not necessarily a fair assessment.
Exactly.
Because you don't subscribe to that. You're a Christian. Obviously, you don't subscribe to Trey and Ellis's inner goodness.
No, they are sinful and they're bad. So, and that's just like, you see that as soon as you have children and they turn like that 15 months old and they start doing naughty stuff, you're like, ooh, you're sinful. And you see it right away. Of course, everyone is not good inside. That's contrary to Scripture. But the only things that he looked at were secular views of gentle parenting. He only quoted secular views of gentle parenting. He didn't look at any Christian influencers, parenting sites, whatever you want to talk about, that are gentle parenting. So, of course, you're going to have things that you disagree with because it's a secular view.
So he's almost setting it up poorly enough that his argument is irrelevant?
Yes.
Yeah, straw man.
Yeah, and also his setup is gentle parents don't discipline their kids, and we must discipline or punish our children. He's only talking about discipline. Gentle parenting is much more than just discipline and punishment. It's an entire philosophy of how you parent. Discipline and, punishment is a part of it. They do it a different way than, a traditional parent might. But that's only part of it. It's not the entire philosophy. And he's wrapping up gentle parenting in just their philosophy of punishment. And that's not true.
Okay, yeah. So it's like if you're teaching a class on democracy, you grab one aspect of it and say this is the whole thing.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's do this. We have to take a quick break. When we come back, I'd love to have you help us understand, and I've got some sources too, but I like the personal application better.
Sure.
This guy says it's unbiblical, which is pretty extreme.
Don't worry, I got my notes.
You and Eddie are following this. What really is, in your interpretation as a follower of Jesus, gentle parenting? And how is it different than the way I raise my kids, Ron raised his? There was a pastor from Alabama who wrote an article in the Gospel Coalition. It's one of the more reputable sources. Now, it's an opinion piece, of course. But the Gospel Coalition has a lot of great stuff in terms of learning how to live out your faith in the world today. In this case, though, he went after gentle parenting. He was like, kids these days, as in like millennials, raising their kids all crazy like, unbiblical. He says, parents must punish. Gentle parents don't punish. Lauren's over here being like, hi, I'm a gentle parent, and you don't get it.
Yeah.
Help us get it.
Okay, so we talked about he doesn't really understand gentle parenting, and he also has wrapped it up in, he's only looked at secular viewpoints of gentle parenting.
Yeah.
Everything he's quoted is secular people. And he also is saying the entirety of gentle parenting is the way they discipline. Like the only difference in gentle parenting is that how they discipline, and that's not true. It's an entire philosophy of parenting. So the philosophy of gentle parenting would be understanding child development and brain development in a child. And so you are understanding that, okay, my son is 3. A 3-year-old doesn't understand that it hurts someone's feelings when you do something. Or that when he lies about if he ate 2 cookies when I only told him he could have 1, that's lying. He doesn't understand that.
He's not capable of processing that.
No.
Okay.
He doesn't get that. He doesn't just be like, come born and know that that's lying, that it's wrong, and that is a sin against me, his parent, and a sin against God. They don't know that. And so it's kind of bringing it down a notch and saying, okay, they need to be taught this information. And it's not just about behavior modification. It's not, I want you to act this or I want you to stop lying. It's, I want your heart to change. It's a change of heart, not just a behavior modification. I don't want you just to change because I asked you to change, or you're changing because you're scared that I'm going to hurt you, or you don't want me to spank you and you're scared of being spanked and you don't want to be hurt, so you're not going to lie. But you're not lying because you know that it's wrong and that it's a sin against me and it's a sin against God. And it's changing of the heart in that way, not just doing something because you're scared of being spanked in this instance.
So then what do you do? And I'm just going to be the guy that asks the questions. Yeah. What do you do at those stages of development where they can't process that yet? I mean, right? Because folks who have, like Ron and my age would be like, well, that's when you just give them rewards and punishments to guide them in a path, right? Yeah. But you're saying they can't process, like lying, for example. So sure. You can't teach them that's a sin thing. What do you do with those behaviors?
Gentle parents do discipline their children. It's just not by spanking.
What do they do?
So say, okay, so we have a dance party every night with Trey in our kitchen before bedtime.
Aw.
And he starts screaming wildly. And I'm like, hey, Trey, we're not screaming anymore. It's too loud. You don't need to be screaming in the house. If you scream again, we're going to stop the dance party and we're not going to have a dance party anymore. So you're taking away the thing that he loves and is enjoying because he's not able to follow the boundaries and instructions that have put in place. And so gentle parenting is, I was talking to my friend about this yesterday, processing my thoughts. High power or authority. I am the authority and I have power in this family. I'm your parent, but also high flexibility. And so you have authority in the house. I'm setting rules and boundaries and guardrails for this child so that they can follow this path. But I'm going to be flexible within those guardrails to know that he's a kid and he doesn't understand some things. And I'm not going to, expect him to understand what lying means or expect him to understand that you're hurting someone's feelings when he doesn't know what that means yet. And he has to be given the grace and the room to understand that. And we as Christians are given grace and room to understand that by God. Why would we not give that to our kids to give room to understand that?
Yeah, and that's where, when I was reading one of the commentaries you sent me of pushback from Christians who subscribe to gentle parenting like you do, They were like, wait a minute, shouldn't our parenting reflect the character of Christ?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wait, okay, so if I'm constantly threatening to spank so that you conform to my expectations, that's not feeling right anymore, is it?
Yeah, and in this Gospel Coalition article, when he's giving his biblical viewpoints for punishment, he's only picking out verses that are talking about discipline. And he's not talking about the entirety rest of the scriptures of the fruits of the Spirit has gentleness. Where do you think gentle parents learn to be gentle from? From Jesus.
Oh, that's right.
The only time that Jesus describes himself is gentle and lowly.
You know, I wonder if what we've done over the years, as I just processed this out loud, we go specifically to the passages that talk about parenting. But when you do that, you're left with essentially two things. It's, well, three. Train them.
Yeah.
Discipline them.
Yeah.
And the third one was, I forget.
So don't provoke your kids to anger.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. And don't provoke them. So train them, discipline them, don't provoke them. Done.
And so what? We don't have to, have the fruits of the Spirit as parents?
Right. Those fruits of the
Wrong.
Spirit. Yeah.
I have had to learn the fruits of the Spirit 100 times every day since becoming a parent because they're the hardest thing when you become a parent. Patience, gentleness, self-control. No, those are extremely hard things to do as a parent. And he's just like, picking out just the ones that talk about a rod. Why doesn't he? I have all these quotes he didn't talk about. Why didn't he talk about in 1 Corinthians when Paul says to Corinthians, do you want me to come bringing the rod or do you want me to come with love and gentleness?
Uh-oh.
He's like threatening him like, what do you want? And why does he not quote Galatians 1:6 about going to one another with a spirit of gentleness when someone is in the wrong?
Well, we want kids to learn right from wrong, Lauren, and we can't gently tell them to get out of the street. They'll get hit by a car.
Sure.
We can't gently tell them to not touch the fire.
Yeah, and that's the times that you use your authority and you yank them away.
Okay.
And you say, you're not playing outside anymore today because obviously you can't handle it. You can't handle the boundary of you don't run in the street, so we're not going outside today.
They can't process yet the street's dangerous, Lauren.
Exactly. That's why you tell them, don't go in the street.
And you bring them inside.
And you bring them inside. Because
Yeah.
they can't handle being outside and not going in the street, obviously, because they ran into the street.
Now, if I want to extend grace to, I don't know, myself, brain development has gone like leaps and bounds scientifically in the last 20 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
But even, I guess the best we knew was, I remember learning in psychology class in my undergrad, the object permanence, right? The reason kids love peekaboo is because literally when you cover
you're
your
gone.
face, you disappear.
Where'd she go?
And so they just like can't believe that you've reappeared out of nowhere.
Or that's why, like around 9 months, they get very upset when you walk out of the room. Because before they didn't know you were gone. But then all of a sudden they realize, oh, she's not here anymore.
And she may never come back.
Yeah.
I don't know if she'll come back. Yeah. And so when you process it that way, right, it's like, oh, okay, their brains don't understand things yet. And we do know scientifically, right, we keep hearing like brains develop until what, like 26?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later today.
Darius finally arrived. You did it.
God.
That's not everybody, by the way. It's probably primarily boys. Different story. I don't know. Ron, how do you process some of this? Because I know it's your generation and mine. Boomers and Xers look at people doing gentle parenting and like chatting with a toddler screaming in the grocery store going, what's wrong with you?
Right. Where you see points like that, the wild child and the parent who's just, oh, that's okay, but I don't think that is a responsible gentle parent. I think a gentle parent, like I can see Lauren exercising her authority and keeping the child in check, not just, oh, please don't do that.
No.
So is it that the public has gotten this perception that, gentle parents don't discipline and they don't tell their kids no? Or is that coming from maybe some people who think they're a gentle parenting and they're actually doing that?
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think there are some people that think that they're gentle parenting and they're not being they're not holding authority in their family. They're letting their kids run all over them. And that's not the case. And also, I think what people take out is they'll read these like scripts, in like on Instagram or whatever of like how to talk to your child and how to validate their emotions, but say this is what we're doing instead. and they don't add, like, there's still personality to it.
Mm.
I'm not like a timid person, and so I'm not going to be timid with my child because that's not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be like, oh, Trey, we're not doing that. That's not, I'm like, no, Trey, stop. We're not doing that because it's going to hurt you, it's going to hurt your brother, and you're spitting in my face. So we're stopping now because you obviously can't handle it, you know? They're not adding, like, people are stripping away the personality of a human and just saying, just say this thing and it works. And that's not how, no, you have to have a personality that's going to fit into how you parent.
Now, to help old people like Ron and me better understand this style of parenting, can you give maybe some examples from, because you lived with your parents for a year.
Yeah.
What are some examples of how you all did gentle parenting and they were like, I don't know what's happening here?
Yeah, that's good.
Wasn't one of them with the dinner table?
Oh, well, I don't know if that's like really gentle parenting or just like what we do.
Oh, okay.
Trey just like runs around at dinner time because if I force him to sit down and eat, he's not going to eat because he's just so mad that he has to sit there.
Mm.
And so he just like runs around, plays with his cars. He currently is into puzzles. So he has like 45 puzzles on the table and he's just doing puzzles. And then he'll like wander over and grab food. And he eats more if he does that. That's just him personally. But other things would be we do a lot of timers in our house of like warnings and not just like, we're going because I said it's time to go. Well, they didn't know that. They have no concept of time.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just saying it's time to go. In your head, you've been preparing all morning to go. They don't know that. And they also have no concept of what 2 minutes is. Like, we're leaving 2 minutes. What does that mean? They don't know. So you say, okay, Trey, I'm setting a timer for 2 minutes. When the timer goes off, we're leaving. And you hold to that boundary. It's not, okay, I'll start another timer and another timer, another timer until you're ready. It's the timer went off. It's time to go. And do not get me wrong. There are plenty of times I have lifted my child like a log outside of Target. Time to go. You're not leaving, Kate. Time to go. And you just manhandle them out. And you take them out. And you're holding the boundary.
But it's gentle because what you're saying is like you're giving them the patience to like set a reminder. Like we're not. It's time to go. I'm your mom. Do what I say. Obey it immediately.
Right.
What you're saying is they don't understand time, so we're going to be leaving soon. I'm going to set a timer, and when it goes off, it's time to go. And that's more gentle.
Yes. And when the timer goes off, you hold that boundary. You're not like flopping all over the place and like, fighting with them, arguing with them. Nope, it's time to go. I told you the timer I told you when the timer was off, we're leaving. So we're leaving now.
And if I'm understanding you correctly, your goal would be that eventually, as he's able to process it, you're able to teach your sons like why you ought to do X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
So that they don't become like Eddie Haskell for us old people, who knows how to behave well in front of adults, but does whatever they want when they're not looking. Yeah,
you want the heart change to be a part of it. Not just don't hurt your brother because that's mean. Well, okay, then I won't hurt him when you're here because you won't see it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're really into right now is I'm going to close the bathroom curtain so you don't see me drinking this water, even though you told me not to. I'm going to close it. That's what he's doing right now. He just doesn't want to be seen. But one day he will learn, oh, you can't drink that because there's soap in there and nasty stuff. So we're not going to drink that water because it'll hurt your body. It's a change of heart and understanding. If I hurt my brother, I'm hurting his feelings, I'm hurting his body, and I don't want him to hurt. He's going to have empathy and learn that the reason we don't do that is because we don't want to hurt other people.
Yeah, I tell you what, I was talking with a buddy last night, and we were reflecting on ourselves when we were younger. And we called ourselves master manipulators when we got to like college, for example. And what we meant was nobody saw the wickedness within us because we knew how to pretend.
Okay.
We knew all the rules. We'd been taught the guardrails. Do this, don't do that. The religion, so to speak. But man, we were a mess inside.
Oh, sure.
And it sounds to me like you're trying to create the opposite, sort of. You don't want your sons to become master manipulators. You want a heart change.
Exactly.
Because it took my heart a long time to change. I'm still working on it. But I know what I'm supposed to do. You see? I guess that's what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. And someone texted in, try these things with autistic children. Obviously, I'm talking about children that are neurotypical, okay? There are different things you have to do with children who have different ways their brains work.
And every kid's different.
Yeah,
I'm sure as Ellis grows up, his parenting is going to be slightly different than with Trey,
totally.
right?
Yeah, Trey's quite sensitive. Ellis is a goof already, and I know he's going to be wild, so it's going to be different.
Yeah, my mom talked about how hard it was to punish me. because like she put me in the corner, I'd like sing a song. If you put me in my room, I'd play with toys. If you spanked me, I didn't care. And so became essentially go in your room, sit on the floor, sit
Don't do
cross-legged.
anything.
You can't make any noise. You can't sing. You can't
Sit
touch
on your
anything.
hands.
Yes, because I was hard to discipline in that
Yeah.
way. But my brother, you could look at him and go, "Did you?" And he'd
Yeah. I used to tell my parents all the time, stop yelling at me. And they didn't even raise their voice. They just talked firmly.
I appreciate you helping us understand this better.
Sure.
And I think it's also a lesson in it's okay to be critically analyzing something, but be fair when you do so.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
you need to look at the whole of Scripture, not just the ones that you want.
Yeah. Benefit of the doubt, I think we call it.